All right, then with that, Ms. Broughton, would you please begin the announcements?
Jennifer Broughton for the department through 2 Engage.
Amanda Poole, permanency case manager for 2 Engage.
I'm Donnie Lappy. I'm the attorney for the guardian ad litem for the child.
I'm Tracy Perry, 2 Engage permanency supervisor.
Mr. Howard, did you announce?
I tried. I think I was muted, but I'm Patrick Parrott. I'm the attorney ad litem for Christopher.
All right, we're here today for permanency review after final order. The last hearing we had was back in May. At that time, the permanency goal was APLA. Is that still the case, Ms. Poole?
Yes, sir, it is.
And where is Christopher placed right now?
Christopher is currently placed at the Sweeten Home in Brownwood, Texas. It's a GRO.
Okay. So making sure he's still in the same place.
Yes, sir.
And is that safe and appropriate, meeting his needs?
Yes, it is.
Is it in his best interest to continue there at this time?
Yes, it is.
And is this the least restrictive placement available?
Yes, it is.
Has Christopher had the opportunity to express to you his wants and desires as to placement?
Yes, he has.
What is that?
Right now, he wants to stay where he's at. We're in kind of some discussions. You know, he is 17 years old. He'll be 18 in June. Of course, he's only classified as a sophomore in high school at this time. He's been talking about wanting to go live with his maternal grandmother. His team and I at the Sweeten Home at this time do not think that's appropriate for him because we'd really like to see him complete his high school education. He is behind, very behind with credits in high school right now, and we are going to be setting up an ARD to get on board with us to try to get him, you know, the credits he needs to graduate. So that's kind of our plan right now. The team and I agree for Chris to stay at the Sweeten Home currently, and he's able to stay there until he turns 23 years of age.
Okay, I think we had that discussion before, so. And he's still receiving psychotropic medications?
Yes, sir, he is.
Is the review up to date?
Yes, it is. They just put him on a new medication at his med review before last.
How have his behaviors been overall?
He's doing a lot better. In August wasn't the best month for Christopher, as after one visit I had, he was angry, punched his hand through the window at placement, had to go and get some medical treatment. That was his main anger issue. And then he got into an altercation like 2 or 3 days later with another boy at the home. That boy is no longer there.
Okay.
He's doing a lot better since August.
And school, how are things going with school?
I believe when I met with him Monday, he's currently in DAEP for an incident that occurred at the end of last school year. When I met with him on Monday, he advised me on Monday he only had 12 days left in DAEP, and then he would return back to Brownwood High School.
Are his educational needs being met at this time?
Yes, they are. We're fixing to have an ISP with his team at Sweeten Home, and our main focus right now is getting Chris caught up on some credits, and that's why we want to meet with the school and have an R to see what we need to do to assist them or what they can do to assist Chris to get back on track to graduate.
Do you need that ordered or is that already in process?
It's in process. He had one in May of 2023, and once we just found out recently about him that Chris only has 6.5 credits currently as a sophomore. I spoke with the team on Monday when I was out there, and they were supposed to be getting with the person at the high school to set up a new ARD meeting for him.
All right. Did he ever get started with PALS?
Yes, he's done PALS. He's aware. We had a circle of support for him back in this summer, I believe in July, Judge. Yeah, on July 11th, we held a circle of support for Chris.
Okay. Anything in particular about that we need to discuss today, or is everything good?
No, just trying to prepare him for what he wants to do, when he is able to get out of care. Christopher was working. He since got fired from his job, but Chris and I have talked about it, and he really wants to start trying to find another job. So he, I advised him, if he wants to do independent living or live with the grandmother, he's going to have to help be able to provide, and help pay bills and provide groceries for that. So Chris and I discussed that Monday of him trying to get a job and start saving some money for whenever he gets out of, if he decides to get out of care.
Did you say that he got fired from the job?
Yes, he did.
What was the reason?
Not doing all what his boss had asked him to do.
Okay.
So we discussed that on Monday as well with Chris.
Okay. Was there ever any contact made with his sister?
No, she is, I believe she just got adopted. She's up North Texas. I can revisit that with the case manager. I just know his sister has a lot of medical needs and is like pretty much on home, stays at home and is homeschooled due to all her medical problems.
We had talked, I think I remember talking about that in May as well. I just didn't know if there was any follow-up on it or if they had reached out at all.
No, sir, we have not.
What about Chris's brothers?
I have not had any contact with Chris's brothers. I don't know if Chris has had any contact with brothers. I know he mainly just stays in contact with his maternal and paternal grandmothers that live here in Brownwood, Texas. And they have actually gone out a couple of times and picked up Chris and taken him out to eat. Like for his birthday, they've taken him shopping and spent some time with him on the week one day. It's been a while, but on a Saturday, they'd spend all day together.
Okay. Did you reach out to the brothers?
I have not. I'll have to get that information from Chris. He hasn't even mentioned them in the last few months. So I don't know if he's still having contact with them.
Okay. Back in May, I issued an order to engage to contact the brothers. So I guess my question is that something we still need to pursue at this time, or is that just a dead end?
That's probably something I would need to ask Chris. If he has contact information from them, I know they're living up in another state as they've been, I believe they're in different states now as they've been adopted.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
All right. Ms. Broughton, any questions for Ms. Poole?
No, Judge, thank you.
Mr. Howard?
Just a couple of follow-up questions. Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Besant, just about a few things you spoke about. The second incident with the altercation with another kid at the placement, it was determined that the other kid was more to blame for that than Chris. Is that true?
Yes, sir, that is correct. The other kid started the altercation.
Okay. Chris has asked me about use of his electronics. And so let me ask you, does he currently not have any ability to use his phone, computers, anything that's hooked up to the internet?
If I remember correctly, right now, I'm just allowing him an hour a day after he gets home from school. And the main reason for that is due to his previous behaviors I discussed with Chris on Monday as well as I did last month. His level had gotten down to a level 1. I told him I'd like him to get at least a level 3 and maintain that for a little bit. And then he and I and the team would discuss him having his electronics a little longer.
And so that's your rule, not the Sweden rule. Is that right?
No, the Sweden home, you have to be a certain level to even be able to get your electronics out there. And your level depends on the length of time you get your electronics.
Right. The better your level is, the more freedom and more access to that type of stuff. Now, he's a level 3 currently. Is that correct?
He was on Monday when I was out there. They had not done levels for the week when I was there, but he was a 3 on Monday.
And you talked about he's had some day visits with both sides of his grandparents.
Yes, his maternal and his maternal and paternal grandmother have gone and picked him up together. They're together, have picked him up and taken him like out to eat, shopping, gone to the, one of the maternal, one of the grandmother's apartments. He got to go swimming and spent almost a full day with them about a month or so ago.
And so before that happened, I guess you checked out the grandparents and their histories and made sure that was safe and appropriate.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Any other witnesses from either party? Or actually, Mr. Lappy, I think we might have discussed this last time. Were you dismissed off this case?
Not that I know of, but I don't know that we need a guardian ad litem.
Okay. Well, do you have any questions since you're here?
Are there restrictions on how often the grandmothers can visit?
No, there's no restrictions.
When they're available, they have to contact the Sweeten Home and make arrangements and get the visit.
Yeah, pretty much. His paternal grandmother will reach out to me and let me know that she'd like a visit, to see Chris or whatever, and I'll make arrangements through his caseworker and the team at Sweeten Home.
And he does well with the visits.
Yes, he does.
I don't have any other questions.
Anybody else have any other questions?
No questions, Judge.
All right. Christopher, do you have anything that you want to add or you want to say?
I just want to say that I do know about my brothers being adopted and all that. And the main reason I've been trying to get them, be able to find them, because I know their names has also been changed. I know one of them, I think Devin, his name might be the same. One of them's named Kevin. And I don't remember their other brother's name because he wasn't really my brother. He was like my stepbrother because he was one of their bigger brothers.
Okay, so you're just trying to let Ms. Poole know that their names have been changed?
Mainly that I want to see them and their names are changed. Well, I'm fine with just calls. I just want to be able to talk to them.
Okay. You have any other information that might help Ms. Poole other than what you've just told us?
Not really. Like, I just know pretty much what she knows about them being in a different state ever since they've been adopted.
Okay. Mr. Howard, anything else that you want to report?
Couple of things, and some of this comes directly from Chris. I think Chris is actually doing pretty well. His level is at a 3 now, and so that's good. The two things he wants me to ask about, one is he'd like more use of his electronics, his phone, his computer. I know we had a really serious incident in the past where we've been very protective of that. But the other thing he'd also ask is he asked for a desire to see his grandparents more, even potentially spend a night at their house. I think that we have a child that's 17 that's going to be 18 fairly soon. At that point, he's going to have access to these things. He's going to be able to make decisions. And so I think we should give him a little more leeway to prepare him for that, and also a reward for his good work. Now, in my discussions with Chris, and I think after that circle of support, which I thought went really well, I think he's leaning towards electing to stay in care, which I think is a very good idea for him. And I think it's another reason maybe we should give him a little more leeway. And I think he should do that. As far as the school and the working go, I agree with Ms. Poole that if he is going to elect to get out of care, then working's a good idea. But otherwise, I think the school should be the priority. I'm not saying he shouldn't get a job, but I think catching up on schoolwork and getting more credit should certainly be his priority for everyone. As far as the attorney and guardian ad litem, we may have brought this up last time. I think it's fine if Mr. Lappy is dismissed, if he is okay with that. Years ago, there was a clear conflict in this case before we even had the original final hearing. And that's how that came about. I don't see that there's a conflict anymore in my representation. But besides that, I really think Chris is doing from where this case has gone, I think he's doing pretty well. He's really settled in at the Sweden house, seems to be comfortable there. He's much more talkative, has a better effect. I think socially he's improved a great bit. So I'm proud of him for that. Thank you, Judge.
Great. Mr. Lappy, anything from you?
I was talking to Christopher yesterday about his education, and he's not very motivated to work on getting his education. He's passing a few of his courses and failing some of them, but he doesn't seem to be actively.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
He doesn't seem to be actively taking an interest in his studies and wanting to get them finished.
Okay. Ms. Poole, is there anything besides the ARD that we can do? I mean, I'm not sure. It sounds like, he's working in school, but I don't know if there's something that we can do for Christopher to motivate him a little bit more.
Well, he's really, when he first started the school year in DAEP, he really didn't want to do work. He was on his school computer, getting on different sites. He was, during this, it wasn't nothing inappropriate or anything, but just sites he shouldn't be on when he's supposed to be doing schoolwork. When I talked to him on Monday, he's advising me he's doing a lot of assignments to get caught up. His team and I at the Sweden home had discussed, once he got out of DAEP, possibly going to a night school, but with him only having 6.5 credits, it would still take like 2 to 2.5 years to get him graduated high school in night school. So that's one reason we're wanting to hold an R, to see where he's at, what we need to do to help Chris graduate. And actually, the school kind of help us, help Chris and get him the work he needs to do and the credits to graduate.
Okay. Ms. Greenlee, I don't show a future hearing date on this case.
I didn't set one since we're sending it back to Judge Watkins, so I didn't set one.
Okay.
I figured I would let them do it.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. And for the purposes of the permanency review after final order, the court finds the permanency goal is still APLA, that Chris is still placed at the Sweeten home, that placement is safe and appropriate, meeting his needs in his best interest to continue. Court finds it's the least restricted placement available. The court finds that Chris has had the opportunity to express his wants and desires and has expressed a desire to stay where he is. Court finds that his psychotropic review is up to date at this time. His educational needs are being met. I'm glad that ARD is going to take place. I mean, it sounds like he's trying to get caught up. So, Chris, just keep doing that. And if you feel like you're getting off track, you feel like you're losing interest, and you need to talk to somebody, because it's very important that you get your credits so you can graduate sooner than later. Court finds that he has completed PALS and had a circle of support on July 11th, 2023. Yeah, I don't know if there was some confusion, but I did order to engage to try to find his brothers and see if he could make some contact last time. So I'm going to make that order again. I know it's tough. I know we may not be able to find them if their names have changed, but I do want to at least attempt to make that contact for Chris. So I'm going to make that order again today. I'm also going to order increased contact with his grandparents. And Christopher, if you're on your best behavior for the next month, the next calendar month, then I'm going to allow you to have overnights. But if you act up or something happens or there's an incident, it's going to revert back just to the daytime visits. Okay.
Yes,
So
I understand.
it's on you to. Mr. Howard said that you had earned it and that he wanted to reward you, and I do too. I agree with that, but you've got to stay on your best behavior. I'm also going to allow him some increased time with electronics as appropriate, provided that you don't abuse it, Christopher. So you're at that age, I understand, but don't abuse it. Don't go to sites you shouldn't go to and do things you shouldn't do with it, because then you're going to lose it again. All right.
Yes, sir. The only really reason I want my electronics, mainly my phone and computer, is to talk to family and friends, to increase my social life a little better again.
I understand that. I think that's appropriate, as long as it's appropriate type of contact and communication. You know, you're 17. I think that that's, you know, you need that. So, all right. And the court finds this is the least restrictive placement available. I'm going to put the next hearing date and time as to be determined. I did speak with Judge Watkins and the new presiding judge, and the decision was made for Judge Watkins to take the 6 or 7 cases that I have in permanency back. So she'll be hearing this case, and I don't know what date or time yet, but she will be hearing it. I don't know. Do you have one, Ms. Shepherd?
I don't have one, but I will get one from Mandy in a minute. And when I send you the order, I will have the new date put in there.
Very good. Okay. Well, thank you all for your time and your service. And Christopher, I don't know that I'm going to see you again, so good luck to you. Okay. And I wish you all the best. And for anybody else who isn't on the next case, it was a pleasure working with you. I wish you all the best as well.
Thank you,
If
Judge.
you're not on the next one, you are excused. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Please
Have a
begin
good day.
announcements, and would the attorneys please prompt their clients to announce?
Jennifer Broughton for the Department to Engage representatives.
Jennifer Gilligan, permanency case manager for To Engage.
Crystal Gillette, To Engage permanency supervisor.
Lee Haney,
Your Honor,
attorney.
I'm
for the mother.
sorry, Your Honor. There's some extra To Engage people that I don't know who they are. If they could please, everybody who is here, if they could announce themselves, please, so I know who they are.
I'm Kimberly Brucewitz. I am a permanency support supervisor for To Engage over the Independent Living Program, also known as PAL.
And I am Josephina Garcia. I'm one of the independent living specialists under Kimberly.
I'm Jack Sledge, VP of Permanency for Brownwood and Texoma areas.
I'm Lee Haney, the attorney for the mother who is not present.
And I'm Emily Miller. I represent Justin.
Okay, we're here on a couple of different things. To begin with, Justin has turned 18 as of October 7th. Happy belated birthday, Justin.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so there's, I believe, an agreement to dismiss conservatorship and begin trial independence. But Ms. Miller wants the trial independence period to be extended. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. At this point, I think you can, I mean, it's optional for, I mean, not optional. It's mandatory for 6 months, and I'd like for you to extend it as I believe the court has authority to do for a year.
Any opposition to the year extension?
No, we're in agreement with that, Judge.
No
Okay.
objection.
All right. So ordered. I'll enter trial independence and order that it be extended from 6 months to 12. All right. And then the second issue that we have this morning is Ms. Miller has filed a motion for enforcement against To Engage. There was a motion that was originally filed and then has since then been amended. And it's motion for contempt against To Engage and the Texas Department of Family Protective Services based on an order that this court entered on August the 10th regarding Justin's medical, dental, vision, and educational services. Ms. Miller, it is your motion. I'll allow you to proceed first. Any housekeeping issues we need to take up?
No, Your Honor, I expect I'll just call one witness, and that's Ms. Gilligan.
Okay.
I don't believe we have any housekeeping matters.
Anything from Ms. Broughton or Mr. Haney regarding housekeeping?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right, then witnesses have been sworn. We are on the record. Ms. Miller, you may proceed.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Gilligan, I'd like for you to go back over a year, back to August of 2022, when we had a permanency hearing regarding Justin. Do you recall that?
Yeah, I guess. It's been a long time.
Okay. Do you recall at that hearing that Chelsea Timmons stood in for me as Justin's attorney at that hearing?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you recall in that order or at that hearing that Justin still did not have glasses and that there was a need for Justin to get glasses in August of 2022?
I remember it being brought up, but I thought he was able to get them at the
Hold on
juvenile.
just a second, please. I'm just asking if you remember that. Do you remember his glasses being discussed at that hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and he was in TJJD at that point, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and where did he move to next from TJJD?
If you're Hidalgo County Jail.
Okay, and when he got to the Hidalgo County Jail, he still did not have his glasses, correct?
I am not sure.
Okay, so he was in the Hidalgo County Jail, and then he went back to the Starr County Jail, and then back to the Hidalgo County Jail, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was due to overcrowding at the Hidalgo County Jail?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so you'll recall that almost a year later that you and I had a conversation via email regarding the provision of his dental treatment, his glasses, and his healthcare treatment and educational treatment while he was in the Hidalgo County Jail, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and he never received any of those things in the Hidalgo County Jail, right?
No, ma'am.
Okay, then he moved, and I'm just trying to speed this up. I'm not trying to lead, Your Honor, but then he moved to the Taylor County Jail, correct?
No, he was released.
Okay, he was released and then reincarcerated on some new offenses in the Taylor County Jail, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that happened in about June of this year. Is that right?
The end of May.
The end of May. Okay, very good. Thank you. And so you'll recall that you and I had a conversation regarding dental treatment, educational services, glasses, and medical treatment back in May and early June of this year, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm specifically looking at an email from June the 28th. Do you recall that chain of correspondence?
Not off the top of my head, but I can look it up.
Okay, well, do you disagree with that?
Is she frozen?
No, I just don't remember this conversation email, but I don't want to argue.
Okay, all right. So would you disagree with me if I said that I sent you an email that said, does To Engage intend to file a motion to provide Justin with his dental treatment, medical treatment, ophthalmological treatment, as you're required to provide him by law? And do you intend to file a motion to provide him with educational services? Would you disagree or agree that we had that communication?
Agree.
Okay, very good. And so then we had a hearing after that. I'm sorry, then the court signed a motion on or around July the 6th that said that, let's see. I'm sorry, I filed a motion for To Engage. So there was no response after that. And then I filed a motion for To Engage to provide educational and dental services for a child on July the 6th. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay, and by that point, he'd had no educational, dental, medical services provided so far. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, then we had another hearing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then the sheriff, along with you, were ordered to provide those services to this child. Is that right?
Yes.
And that was on August the 10th.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then he did not receive any medical, dental, educational services for the next 32 days. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then at that point, I filed a motion for contempt against To Engage for not having provided these services, and that was provided around September the 18th of 2023. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. When did he get in to get all of his appointments?
He had his dental on September 20th, 2023, and he had his vision and also his Texas Health Steps on September 26th, 2023.
Okay, so September 20th was the dental, and then the medical and his vision were on that same date. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what happened at his vision appointment?
He got a pair of glasses.
Okay. And he'd been needing glasses for about 14 months. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what did they do at his medical appointment?
They did a checkup. I wasn't informed of anything other than that they did a checkup.
Okay. He also got his childhood vaccines at that point. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then he had his dental appointment on that same day. Is that right?
No, he had his dental on the 20th.
Okay. And then what date were the other appointments?
On the 26th.
Okay. Thank you. And when had you first when had you first gotten him some GED packets? What was the first day that you got him the GED packets?
I got him the GED packets on August 18th.
Okay. All right. And of course, that didn't happen until the court's order of September the 10th. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. And
What day did she testify she got in the GED packets?
I believe August the 18th. Is that right, Ms. Gilligan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. And so all of those services were provided while he was in the Taylor County Jail, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And he is now he's been transferred back down to the Hidalgo County Jail to deal with his prior probation there. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Your Honor, I have no further questions of this witness.
Ms. Broughton.
Thank you, Your Honor. Oh, well, I have questions for her. Let's text her. Crystal, do you know if she can get back on?
I am texting her. I will try to call her too. Give me just a second.
Your Honor, if I may ask Ms. Gilligan just a couple of follow-up questions. I'm sorry, before she goes to Ms. Broughton.
That's fine.
Okay. All right, Ms. Gilligan, you'll recall that you and I had another set of communications on September the 12th.
You're muted.
You're
Ms.
muted.
Correct.
Okay. And on that, in those communications, I asked you about the progress of the educational, medical, and dental services for the child, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you told me that you had faxed the order to the jail and you were not sure how the GED packets were going, and that you had sent the doctor and dentist information to that jail, and hopefully they will be making appointments soon. Is that correct? Okay. But you hadn't followed up with by telephone with them or made those appointments yourself, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Broughton.
Thank you. Ms. Gilligan, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that at some point he was in the Starr County Jail. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And really, since last fall, he's been in multiple different places. Is that correct? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. At some point he was in the McLennan County Jail. Is that correct?
And the where
No.
I'm
McLennan County Jail, and I'm looking at your prior court report in the case.
I guess
Has he ever, I'm sorry?
I guess I'm not looking at that report, but I guess so. If it's
Do you recall him ever being sent to McLennan County State Juvenile Correctional Facility?
yes, yeah, marked when he was in March, ma'am.
Say that again, please. You're breaking up.
Yes, ma'am. When he was in March. Yes.
Okay. And after that is when he was placed in Edinburgh. Is that correct? At the Evans unit?
Yes, ma'am.
And then he was placed in the Hidalgo County Jail. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then he was placed in the Starr County Jail. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And now he is in the Taylor County Jail. Is that correct?
No, he's been transferred down to Edinburgh to Hidalgo County.
He's back in Edinburgh now as of today.
Yes,
Of course,
ma'am.
I see that now on the screen. Thank you. But recently he was in Taylor County Jail as well. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And somewhere in the middle of all that, he did have a period. I believe it was in July when he was released. Am I correct about that?
And it was the end of April that he was released, and then he got arrested towards the end of May.
Okay, so he spent about 1 month where he was placed with a relative named Misty. Is that correct? You broke up. I couldn't hear your answer.
Yes, ma'am.
And during the time when it looks like he might be able to stay there with his sister Misty, did you make efforts to get appointments scheduled for him?
I tried to help Misty and set those up.
And what were y'all trying to get set up at that point?
His medical and his dental.
And did he also have appointments scheduled for the GED program?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember when that appointment was scheduled for?
Yes, it was for May 22nd of 2023.
And why was he unable to attend that appointment?
Was arrested on May 19th.
And has he essentially been incarcerated from May 19th all the way up until today?
Yes.
And I believe we've already hashed this issue out at prior hearings, at the August 10th hearing specifically. Did you have a difficult time reaching school personnel during the summer months?
Correct.
And you ultimately were able to get GED materials once you could pick them up from the school. Is that correct?
Yes, from the adult GED program.
Okay. And that's when did you pick those up on August 18th? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And this was how long was it after you had gotten a response from them that you needed to come pick them up that you went and picked them up yourself?
It was just a couple of days.
Okay. And then presumably that would be when they got back to work after being off for the summer.
Well, they were there, but they weren't returning calls. So yeah, I guess it was summer break and I was having a hard time getting a hold of them before then.
Okay. Did you send the order that Judge Falkenberg entered on August 10th? Did you send that directly to the Taylor County Detention Center?
Yes, ma'am, on August 10th.
Okay. And did you speak to somebody that day confirming that the facts had been received?
Yes, ma'am. A gentleman by the name of Adam.
Okay. And soon after that, did you ever have a conversation with the actual sheriff confirming that that order had been received?
Yes, ma'am, on the following Monday, the 14th.
Of August?
Yes, ma'am. August 14th, 2023.
And did you take the GED packets to the Taylor County Detention Center?
Yes, on August 18th.
The same day that you were able to get them?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you allowed to physically deliver them to Justin, or was there some policy they had in place on how he actually needed to get them?
There's a policy that they have to give it to him. I was not allowed to.
Okay. So who did you leave them with?
I left them up front with the clerk up there.
Did you get to have a conversation with Justin that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you speak to him about the GED packets?
Yes, and I told him that I had provided the office staff with the GED packets and that they had stated they would give Justin the GED packets.
Basically gave him a heads up that it was coming and he needed to be working on those.
Yes, ma'am.
Has he done any work on those to your knowledge?
He said he's done a little bit, but not a whole lot, that he would get enrolled in the GED program when he was released.
And did you provide names, phone numbers, contact information on specific dental programs, pediatrics, places to the jail? Did you provide those? Did you list those providers and give them to jail personnel?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you do that?
Because they needed them because they hadn't been able to find them apparently before then.
Okay. Did you email the sheriff at any point regarding these appointments?
Yes, I emailed him September 25th.
Now you had put in, I believe, Ms. Miller asked some questions about Justin's glasses. You had put in prior orders that he had reading glasses. Am I correct about that?
Yes.
And are you aware of times that he had those with him? Do you know if those went with him as he was transferred to these different facilities, or do you not know?
I did not know. I thought he had them and he just didn't use them.
Okay. Do you feel like, do you feel as though you have done everything in your power to make efforts to make sure that his needs have been met in the various facilities where he has been incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything else that you feel that you could have done to make this go smoother, considering his circumstances?
No, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Mr. Haney,
No questions, Your Honor.
redirect.
Your Honor, yes, I do. Ms. Gilligan, did you ever contact the Texas Education Agency?
Not TEA, no.
Okay, so when you could not get in touch with anybody at Abilene ISD, you didn't try to contact anybody at TEA?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right. No further questions, Your Honor.
Next witness.
Your Honor, I don't have any further witnesses. If I could just have a brief closing, and then I have some requests for some orders.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I've learned a lot on today's hearing. I have learned a lot about what Ms. Gilligan's efforts were in August. Had I known those before right now, I may or may not have filed this contempt motion. The only thing that I had heard as far as communication from her goes was on September the 12th, which said that she faxed the order to the jail, was not sure how this was going, was not sure how that was going. And that led me to believe that nothing had happened for 32 days. So unfortunately, I'm getting more information on this hearing regarding Justin than I got before I filed this motion. So, given Ms. Gilligan's efforts, I'm not sure that a contempt finding is warranted, and I would not urge that request at this time, but I would urge a couple of other requests. As usual, the problem comes down to a lack of communication in a case. And had I known all of these things, I probably wouldn't have filed this motion. We have a very experienced supervisor with whom I've worked for many years that I have a lot of confidence in. And I think at any point, Ms. Gillette could have chimed in and given me this information as well. These services are not optional, the educational services or the medical services. We have a child who's been in 4 different correctional facilities, the MART unit, 5, TJJD, the Hidalgo County Jail, the Starr County Jail, and the Taylor County Jail. Without his necessary childhood vaccines, he's in correctional facilities with lots of other people from different countries who may have had some precarious health situations of their own. So I think it's extraordinarily important that 2Engage takes these things seriously and not only gets the services done, but lets the ad litem know that those services have been done. These are not optional services. And I do see that after the court made its order on August the 10th, that Ms. Gilligan got on the ball in terms of his educational and medical services with the sheriff's office, but I had no idea that these communications were taking place until I sent my email of September the 12th, when I got kind of a, I don't know this and I don't know that answer, which is not a satisfactory answer. So I would, and of course, the sheriff didn't get on the stick until after I had filed and had him served with my motion for contempt. So I don't want to have to keep filing these in order to get an answer. And I include the Taylor County Sheriff's Office in that statement. But I'm getting a little tired of filing these contempt motions just in order to get kids what they are entitled to by law, but I will continue to do it if necessary, not only for the children to get the services, but for me to learn about the services. Justin is probably going to be released from the Hidalgo County Jail pretty soon. He's on probation down there, and I don't know, I would assume due to his incarceration that a motion to revoke his probation has been filed. But he, at that point, when he's released from incarceration, is going to want to return to Gainesville, Texas. Since he is in trial independence, I want to make sure that we have a court order that to engage is required to transport him from Hidalgo County back to Gainesville County, which is basically the length of the entire state of Texas. But he should not be left in Hidalgo County with a hope and a prayer and a wish for good luck. To engage needs to go pick him up and return him to his place that he is going to remain with his sister in Gainesville, Texas. I would also ask that he be enrolled in counseling within a week. I would ask that he be enrolled in a GED program within a week. And because of the numbers of places that he has been incarcerated, I would ask that he have another health steps checkup within a week. So those are my requests at this time, and I appreciate the court's indulgence and time to take up this matter.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Ms. Broughton, any response?
Well, I just wanted to clarify, when is are we asking for the law enforcement center to provide him therapy within a week? Are we asking for to engage to be able, I mean, I think he's kind of
within a week of his release, that he be provided with those services upon a week of his release.
Okay,
I think he'll be released from the Hidalgo County Jail pretty soon. I'm sorry, I may not have stated that.
Okay, no, I was just trying to clarify what was being requested. I don't have anything further, Judge.
Mr. Haney?
Judge, I've had intermittent contact with my client throughout this case, and not at all for some time, but I can assure the court that that she appreciates Ms. Miller's efforts on behalf of her son, and I guess that's all I have, Judge.
Okay. Okay, then as far as the motion for enforcement, I think Ms. Miller said it well. Communication is the key here. So I'm going to make some orders to ensure that that communication is occurring. And those orders are obviously subject to contempt and or sanctions if they're not followed. I believe that coming into today's hearing, after reading everything, I felt as if I had questions as to what the sheriff's office had done. And I had questions as to what To Engage had done. And I feel the same as Ms. Miller. I believe those questions were answered for me today. And that's part of why I'm going to make the orders that I'm going to make. Ms. Miller is stated on the record that she's no longer urging contempt. I think that's appropriate today. But moving forward, after today, it may be appropriate at a later time if we can't get, on the ball and get these things done for Justin. So this is going to be a clarification order of the court's prior order. And the court clarifies the following. The parties to this case are to maintain weekly contact via email with updates as to Justin's location and any services he's needing and or receiving. That's whether he's in this facility or in another facility or in trial independence and engaging in services. So Justin, what I want to make sure you understand as I'm making these orders is that you get released from incarceration, you're in a trial independence period, which means that you can still take advantage of these services.
Yes, sir.
You still do these things and get the help that you need, but you have to do that.
Yes, sir.
If you don't do that, then you're not going to get these services and you're not going to get the help that you need. And all the orders I'm about to make are going to be what we call moot.
Yes, sir.
So that's the first one. Once a week, email communication with everybody that's involved in Justin's case. Updates, if you have information, if you have questions, pick a day of the week, do a mass email, reply all, so everybody can see what information is there. Staff once a month with that same type of information. So the email once a week, and then once a month, get on a Zoom call, get on a phone call, whatever, however you want to do it, and talk to each other verbally, not in writing, verbally about what's going on. I think that'll solve our communication issues. And then I'm going to order that while Justin is incarcerated, To Engage is to maintain a weekly contact with the sheriff's department as to Justin's services and needs. If something comes up, everybody needs to know about it immediately. He's incarcerated and he's in an adult facility, and things can get lost. So that weekly contact is important. I'm going to order, as Ms. Miller requested, to engage to transfer Justin from Hidalgo County back to Gainesville upon his release. So that's another reason to stay in weekly contact, because we all know people get released like that. One day they're incarcerated and the next day they're released. So we need to stay on top of it. And I'm going to grant Ms. Miller's request for counseling and a GED program to be provided to Justin within 7 days of his release, and a Texas Health Step checkup within 7 days of his release. This, I'm glad that we're here. I am, because I want to make sure that we take care of these issues. But, as Ms. Miller said, some of this could have been resolved with better communication. So I'm hoping that the order that I've just made prevents us from being in a situation again where a problem that has probably a reasonably easy solution is resolved in that way, rather than a hearing. But sometimes a hearing is necessary to figure out where we're going wrong. So is there anything, Ms. Miller, I failed to address as far as your requested relief?
Not for me, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Any clarification needed on any of those orders, Ms. Broughton or Ms. Shepard?
I need some clarification, Judge. And really it may be more that I need clarification from Ms. Gillette. My understanding is that once the conservatorship case closes and it transfers to a trial independent status, it will then move over to Ms. Garcia, Josie Garcia, who fortunately is here for this call. So I wanted to just make sure I know who you're ordering, that it will, it's going to shift to a different group, still to engage. But I just want to make sure kind of everybody here, including myself, is on the same page on who this applies to. So maybe I need to ask Ms. Gillette some questions about that to clarify what the process happens next within their organization.
I think that'd be appropriate.
Okay. Ms. Gillette, do you understand my very convoluted question that I just had? I think confused us all even more.
Yes, I do.
What typically happens at this point, once trial independence is granted, the child ages out and we close the conservatorship portion of the case?
Yes, so it usually will go onto a independent specialist workload for the time period that the trial independence is held. Now, I will have to talk with upper management about whether this will stay on Jennifer's workload, or if it will be transferred to a PAL worker or not.
Okay, but that will be something that after this, you guys can figure out and let Ms. Miller and myself, I guess, know who needs to be participating on these calls and in Zoom meetings going forward.
Yes.
Okay, and that's all I wanted to clarify, Judge. And from my perspective, the court case portion of it would be closed. So I didn't know if you're wanting me to be participating in these calls or emails, or if this is a to engage order.
Well, and Ms. Greenlee's just asking me. We're looking at trial independence. Are you also asking for extended jurisdiction?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, then we're going to move forward with court intervention on Ms. Watkins' docket, Judge Watkins' docket.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would, I don't, as long as it's somebody from your office that's participating in those calls. And again, during the weekly calls, we don't know how much longer he's going to be incarcerated. Doesn't sound like it's going to be too much longer, but these weekly calls do not need to be an hour long. It's just 5 to 10 minutes of everybody touching base, because if it's once a week, it shouldn't take very long at all. And then the monthly calls, 15, 20 minutes of just getting together and figuring out, what we need to do. And I think I said weekly calls, I meant weekly emails. So I don't want it to be overly burdensome from a time perspective for anybody, but at the same time, I don't want anything to fall through the cracks because of a lack of communication. So did I clarify everything for you?
One more thing, Judge. You stated that within 7 days of his release, he would be scheduled for his Texas Health checkup. Do you mean, I don't know that they can get him in front of a doctor within 7 days, but that he'll be scheduled with the date that he has in hand within 7 days?
I think the order should say that he'd be scheduled within 7 days. You have an appointment scheduled within 7 days. If that appointment is, a month later, that is what it is. But yeah, that's a good question as well. And that would go for, both of the orders that I made within 7 days, just to get things scheduled, get them moving within that 7-day period. All right.
Your Honor, I think that one of the workers, Ms. Garcia, is asking, is that helping him schedule because he's an adult? And I would say that the answer is yes.
Yeah.
And then I would also ask that his sister be included, his sister Misty Meyer be included in all the meetings and all the communication. And that we set another hearing for approximately a month from now.
I don't see any problem ordering that she be involved, especially if she's going to be a resource and he might be residing with her. I think that's appropriate. And then, like we did on the last hearing, Ms. Shepherd will just have to get with Judge Watkins, coordinator, and Ms. Archer to figure out when that court date would be. But I will order that progress hearing. What else?
Nothing, Your Honor. Nothing for me. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that'll be the order of the court. Thank you all for your time and your service. Justin, do you have anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Well, good luck to you. I probably won't see you again. This is my last hearing in Brown County. It's been almost 2 years, and I really have enjoyed working with all of you. Maybe back at some point, I don't know. But for those of you that I don't see around at trainings and other things, it's been a pleasure, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you
so much, Judge.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
All parties are excused.
Thank you.
Thank you.